do you think that people are scrupulous because they don't know what God is? I mean, none of us know what God is, but do you think that maybe our image of God is too small, and that's maybe part of what results in scrupulosity? Because it's the same theme I'm going to here, right? With like being human and like you began by talking about God, and I think most of us just have like I wonder if for many of us God is accidentally just this idol that we ask to make our life better and our friends' lives better, and that's what we mean by God, and that's not at all what God is. Do you find that as you grow in your understanding of God, this scrupulosity begins to lessen as you begin to trust in how great He is? And does that not make sense? No,
that makes sense. I have a couple of related thoughts. Just cut me off if I'm speaking too long, because I might. I was talking to Thursday about this actually on the way in. So one way in which God makes known that He wants to save our whole humanity is by assuming our whole humanity. So He takes a human soul and a human body and a human intellect, a human will, human emotions, even the defects associated with human sin without the sin itself. So like hunger, thirst, suffering, death. So He shows, I want your whole...
Is farting a result of original sin, do you think?
I don't know, because I think... So God made it such that, all right, we're going to have to get rid of gas in some way, shape, or form. Okay. But God made it such that that gas comes out from between the two biggest hams on our body, and it's like loud and smelly and kind of funny. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
If it is a result of original sin, would Christ have farted?
I mean, He could have assumed the defect, but without the sin.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So like death. Yeah.
I think so. I think we would want to say that.
Right.
Is it...
Continue.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Christ assumed the whole of our humanity, but not only from top to bottom, He assumes the whole of our humanity from start to finish, right? So Christ is conceived, and He merits infinitely at His conception. So in a certain sense, you could say like salvation's done at His conception because He's merited our salvation in its entirety. And yet there's a kind of narrative integrity to His life as well, because He wants to live His life towards the cross and the resurrection and the ascension and the seating at the right of the Father and the sending of the Spirit. So His life is shaped by the divine preordination, by the divine wisdom. God says, wouldn't it be beautiful if He lived a whole life so that you would have the confidence that your whole life is now a privileged place of encounter with His whole life, so that His whole life can map to our whole life. And so what does that say to me? It says that our humanity, it's not a mistake. It's willed by God. Part of our humanity is temporality, discursivity, like progressive unfolding. And I think that there are things that we don't have now, which we will have later. I mean, in many other senses, we're going to waste away, and the outer man is just going to take a beating. But I think God means for us to grow further up and further into the divine life. So I think that when we look at particular moments with a great anxiety, we often falsify our human experience. Like, what am I doing now? What am I doing now? What am I doing now? I think it's better to say, where's the Lord kind of on the move in the present moment, but take into account weeks and months and years. And then I think you have a better appreciation for the mercy of God, which is strong and sweet. And so I think, for instance, humility, I think is an old man's virtue. And I think that if we at this stage of the game say like, I'm gonna show myself humble, then we often make manifestation of false humility. And we often tie ourselves in knots and get overly anguished about our pride. It's just easier to say simply like, I'm proud, but I believe that God's healing grace can grow me beyond my present pride. But that means that I show up for prayer, for sacraments, for friendships, for whatever else, But with this understanding that God's given me a whole life and He intends to perfect me over the course of His whole life, not because my whole life is an ongoing self-help project, but because He's given me my whole life to come to a better knowledge and love of Him. And by way of overflow or like outworking of that experience, it seems like He's going to do something with my humanity, because He has to do something with my humanity if I'm going to enjoy the intimacy and the intensity of the relationship which lies in store. So I can be patient with myself insofar as I've experienced something of the divine patience with me, but still a divine patience which is underwritten by a divine zeal which wants to get rid of every obstacle to that perfect sharing. So I think that does help with scrupulosity, just to say simply that God is on the move. He's bringing you with Him further up, further in, but it's going to take time, and we have to see it in those terms.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.